Hello, saints of God. I just wanted to come on here and actually share something that I came across a few months ago. I was actually studying in Peter, and I came across a verse, and so I was looking in the concordance just to see, what the words were behind what I was actually reading, and trying to just get a deeper meaning. And so one of the words I came across was froward, and in the Greek in the lexicon, it was saying that it was, it was perverse, it was crooked, different things. And I was thinking to myself, like I saw the number and I saw 4646, and I kind of, I was thinking like, that kind of reminds me of our current president. And as you know, we have Biden in office. And those of you whose eyes are open, you can see, the wickedness that he's doing in our nation. But I was looking it up and I saw it, and it says from the base word, and then it gives the number, and it says warped, winding, figuratively it's perverse, crooked, froward, untoward. I'm like, wow, man, that really describes at least what I have observed with our president, especially with this election and everything that took place. So I was thinking, man, and that seems like a coincidence. I wonder what would happen if I put in 4545. So I put in 4545 and I got Samuel. So that word actually means Samuel. And then you look at some of the verses, and a lot of people were likening Trump, you know, not to Samuel, but they're kind of comparing it in a sense to where they were saying, you know, we're going to get our King Saul after Trump. I heard a lot of people, on YouTube saying we would get our King Saul after Trump. So I was like, that's interesting, because it seems as though now we have our King Saul, and he's not really doing the will of God, in my opinion. Anyway, so then I was like, okay, all right, that's interesting. Let me look at 4747. So I put in 4747, and you get this word. I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but the definition, let's see what the definition is. It says fundamental, initial, constituent, proposition, element, principle, or rudiment. If you look, element or rudiment, if you look at that rudiment, it says any first thing from which the other belonging to some series or composite whole taking their rise, an element, a first principle. So like the letters of the alphabet, elements from which all things have come, heavenly bodies, rudiments, etc. So it's basically like the base form of something. And then when you look at the verses that it's associated with, in Galatians 4:3, it says, even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements or the rudiments of the world. Galatians 4:9, but now after that ye have known God, or rather are known of God, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements? So each of these verses is like, it's connotating, that word, but it's always in like a negative sense, and it's like basically like the cares of this life. We all know that this world is run by Satan, so everything that has to do with this world is under his rule, and we're not to be carnally minded, but to be spiritually minded. So all these they're negative except for Hebrews. It says, for when the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles or the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. So it seems like during this next ruler of America, if we're following like this blueprint, that this leader is going to have the world, really like under a spell, and basically slaves to, sin, the sins of this world. and the cares of this life. But for the believers, it seems as though God is going to take us back to the beginning, to the base elements or the base rudiments when it comes to the oracles of God, when it comes to his principles, kind of like, the Acts church. So it's like God's going to bring us back, and, it seems like, time for a revival, if I'm to interpret that correctly. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Let me see, let me try 48. What's it going to be like under the time of whoever rules, if America's, still in power at the time. So I went and I looked, and what does it say? Strong's info. To journey together, by implication, to assemble, go with, resort. Okay. Like, that's interesting. All right. So, let's see, man. You're going to take us back to the rudiments, and then you're going to journey together. Let's see what verses are connected with this. It says in Mark 10:1, and he arose from thence and cometh into the coast of Judea by the further side of Jordan, and the people resort unto him again, and as he was wont, he taught them again. That's interesting. All right, so they're going with Jesus. Luke 7:11, and it came to pass that the day after he went to a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, or resorted with them, and much people. Okay. All right, so now we see people that are followers of Jesus. They follow the disciplines of Christ. They go with him. Luke 14:25, and there went great multitudes with him, great multitudes, and he turned and said unto them, hoping the Lord is saying unto me, well done, my good and faithful servant. And then Luke 24:15, and it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. So it seems like, those of you who subscribe to the rapture doctrine, this seems as though, by implication, we're going to assemble, go with, or resort with the Lord during this time period. So this might be the season in which Jesus Christ is going to come and gather up his elect, or not. Who knows? But it just seems like, things are kind of playing out in a consecutive order. So I'm like, all right, well, let me see what happens after that. So I go to 49:49, and it says, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to show the info. And it says, this word actually, it means a Syrophoenician woman. And if you look, the Bible usage, it says exalted palm. Okay. And it's the name of a mixed nation. Phoenicians, half Phoenicians and half Syrians. All right. And then it says the woman was a Greek and a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that she would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. Okay, so my mind is going at this time, and I'm just thinking like, all right, like how does this fit? How does this fit in? It talks about a mixed nation. Well, in the Bible it talks about Jew and Gentile. So it's a mixed nation of people that God, assembles together. And that's what we call the church in the modern day. So it also talks about casting forth the devil out of her daughter. So, perhaps maybe the devil is getting cast out of the earth, for good, for the millennial reign, Who knows? But it just seems like things are playing out. Maybe the devil is cast forth, you know, into the earth. But, I'm thinking more so like Satan is getting chained up in the pit or something. So I'm like, all right. So if you're putting this together so far, it's like, we got this wicked ruler. The world is going to be pretty much in chaos, doing every evil thing under the sun. Then you got God reviving his church, bringing us back to our first love, the rudiments, the basic principles of our relationship with God. Then you have all of, God's people gathering together with him. And then it talks about it being a mixed nation, right? The devil being cast out. Maybe we're putting on some glorified bodies at that time. Or we're no longer, the devil, the sin that's in us is getting cast off. I don't know. I mean, this is up for interpretation. And I'm just putting this out there for people to actually, do some praying, do some digging, do some studying. Maybe this will help the body of the church as a whole. And maybe this is actually a prophetic timeline of things that are getting ready to unfold and unfold quickly. So I put in 50-50. And as you guys know, 50 is a jubilee. Okay. For those of you who don't know. So we have a jubilee of jubilees, kind of, in the numbers here. So maybe that could be something prophetic. Who knows? But let's see. So it says completion, absolution, perfection, performance. So that makes sense, with it being a jubilee. And show the outline of the biblical usage. And it says completing, a perfecting, fulfillment, accomplishment, the event which verifies the promise. The event which verifies the promise. Wow. Consummation, perfection. So that, to me, that makes me think about the marriage supper of the Lamb. Everything, you know what I'm saying? God is bringing this whole story into a close. We're living with Christ forever. And it's crazy because it just kind of, everything kind of lines up, if you ask me. And then what verses? Blessed is she that believed, for there shall be performance of those things which were told of her from the Lord. So it's kind of like God is like, when I was reading this, it was like God is giving me a wink, like my word, I'm going to bring my word to pass, If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there for another priest should rise out of the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron? And as you know, our priest is Jesus Christ. He's our high priest. So I really feel like like God is kind of hidden things, even in the construction of the Strong's Concordance and the lexicon and everything like that. And I feel like it kind of lines up with America's leaders, because that's actually how I came to even, try to study this out or search this out. But you guys tell me what you think. Leave a comment, if God reveals anything to you, share the video, get this out there. Maybe this can help us as a whole. And, I really feel like this is something that can really give us more hope, because it's getting darker and darker out there. So be blessed in Jesus' name.